Hello and welcome back to my second episode this week of Out of Time Reviews, the show where I look at the latest titles to hit cinemas and streaming. As always, I am Andrew Parker, senior writer and film critic for thegate.ca, and it is another big week at the movies around these parts. If you missed my episode back on Thursday, go back and check that one out to hear about all the interviews I did this week and to get my reviews of Paw Patrol the Dino movie, Nimrods, American Doctor, Tony, and Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma. Today we're going to look at 5 more films to hit screens around me this weekend, starting with Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor trying to stay alive amongst dinosaurs, and It Follows director David Robert Mitchell's The End of Oak Street. Kristen, Stewart, and Alia Shawkat get way too high and in too far over their heads in the stoner comedy The Wrong Girl. A high-class yoga studio turns out to be connected to the dark arts in the satirical horror film Namaslay. Matthew McConaughey tries to show his former foster daughter the ins and outs of the beekeeping business in the Rivals of Amziah King. And finally, a look at Will Poulter and Noah Centineo in the stark Middle America drug addiction drama Union County, which I saw at Sundance and I felt was worth pointing out as it begins its limited release this week. Like, share, and subscribe if you feel so inclined. You know the deal by now. It's time to talk about some movies.
Did anybody else see that weird light last night?
What weird light?
The wind was blowing all crazy. Starbuck was freaked out and barking.
Could have been lights from a helicopter.
Or a UFO? Aliens.
Shut up, Dad.
After 8 years away from the director's chair, It Follows and Under the Silver Lake writer-director David Robert Mitchell returns in a big and very different way with the intense dinosaur-driven sci-fi thriller The End of Oak Street. An unabashed throwback to 80s blockbusters that just so happens to also be set in 1982, The End of Oak Street is a movie that demands to be watched with a jumpy crowd ready to make their feelings known at a moment's notice. This is prime, oh no, look behind you cinema, and I am here for it. The Platt family lives a pretty normal life in a Michigan suburb, even if the marriage between parents Denise, played by Anne Hathaway, and Greg, played by Ewan McGregor, is on the verge of dissolution. Eldest daughter Audrey, played by Maisie Stella, is excited to attend Cornell next year and is heavy into astronomy, while younger son Brian, played by Christian Convery, is just trying to lay low while the older brother of a kid he injured is looking to beat his ass. Amid everything going on in their lives, including a dispute with their uppity neighbor over their beloved dog Starbuck, there have been some odd bright lights appearing in the night sky. There are also large piles of poop lying around, mysterious plants that have been extinct for 200 million years, and other assorted weirdness. One morning, the Platts wake up to no electricity, no phones, no running water, and oh yeah, their entire neighborhood's been transplanted back in time and now resides in a prehistoric rainforest populated by dinosaurs that want to kill them. The End of Oak Street is a fast-moving thriller, clocking in at just about 100 minutes in total, which is the perfect length for something like this. And that doesn't mean that Mitchell forgets to build a lot of character and suspense off the top of the film. The beginning of the movie is a bit of a slow burn, but that's only because once the action starts, The End of Oak Street isn't going to let up for a second. Once Mitchell gets around to finally showing the film's dinosaurs in full, the time to slow down and take anything in is gone, save for a sequence where the family sets down to plot their next steps, which uses more split diopter shots in a single scene than Brian De Palma usually employs in a single film. Mitchell and producer J.J. Abrams, who honestly sees all of his big screen efforts virtually outdone here, have constructed The End of Oak Street to be the ultimate in thrill ride cinema. In interviews, the duo have said that Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist was a major influence on the tone of this film, and not only can I see that, but I think they nailed it. Poltergeist is a film where I still know grown adults who can't even watch it because it's so intense, making it probably the best PG-rated horror movie ever made. The End of Oak Street might have a PG-13 rating, though one Poltergeist probably would have had it if it had come out a few years later, but just like the film that inspired the tone of this one, that rating is getting pushed as close to the R as humanly possible, not just in terms of shocking limb-tearing and body-eating gore, but also in a hilarious moment of release when Greg and Denise stumble upon something they did not expect to see. The 1982 setting and obvious Spielbergian influences here allow The End of Oak Street to have an endearingly corny tone instead of a forced one. The actors, particularly McGregor and a tremendous young performer in Convery, know that they're inhabiting a blockbuster from a different era, and they lean into it. The marital strife between the parents is portrayed so well by Hathaway and McGregor that it's sometimes as intense to watch as the dinosaur action, just delivered in a different tenor. Mitchell also nicely divides the family into two ideological camps once things start taking a turn for the worse. The men of the family are optimistic dreamers who think that things will either blow over or that God will somehow save them, and the women are the pragmatic realists who know deep down that they won't be able to bunker down in their house forever and that plans for survival need to be made. With some sequences filmed in IMAX for maximum impact, as well as some of those cheeky split diopter shots, the end of Oak Street boasts a color grading and enough film grain texture left in to look the part of a late 20th century production. The dinosaurs are CGI here, but if you're a rubber monster purist, don't hold that against the film. Most of them look pretty great and are made to look more hairy and feathery to just underline how birds evolved from the dinosaurs. And most of the time outside of the dinosaurs, the film sticks to practical digital effects whenever possible, with the blend between the real and the digital working in perfect tandem. The biggest weapon in Mitchell's arsenal here has to be the absolutely pitch-perfect score from Michael Giacchino, whose work here is exactly the kind of thing one would get if John Williams or Jerry Goldsmith were scoring this back in the 80s. The film gets the tone right the whole way, but Giacchino's work here is on another level entirely. Those who want to question the science of the movie, which includes some nonsense about wormholes and astrological phenomena, will probably not love what they see. Similarly, those who question why someone would walk into a dangerous place alone or how dinosaurs are able to creep up and surprise people will probably get irked. But that's part of the allure of a film like The End of Oak Street. It's about watching a bunch of people the viewer cares about be put through a physical and emotional ringer for 100 minutes. It wants to move so fast and so efficiently that the viewer is locked into the ride. Don't try to fight it. This one gets an 8 out of 10 for me, and I would love to see this again in a theater with a crowd that has no idea what's in store for them.
Hey, we should go.
Trying to get us some tunes.
Yeah, it feels like time sensitive.
Oh, shit!
Oh, yeah. 2 weeks late on rent. We have less than an ounce of weed. Well, what are we gonna do? I don't think we can sell these to people. We don't even know what these do.
Have I ever led you astray? Cheers.
It's been more than a minute since theaters have been graced with an unpretentious stoner comedy, so it's nice to see writer-director Dylan Meyer and stars Kristen Stewart and Alia Shawkat coming along with The Wrong Girls, a standard but effective enough tale of a couple of burners who get in way over their heads. Delivery driver and former Cornell engineering major Frankie, played by Stewart, and budding gastronome Molly, played by Shawkat, are inseparable besties at a crossroads. They're about to get evicted from their beloved Casa de Chill zone. Frankie just got dumped by a boyfriend who's moved on by dating someone who looks exactly like her, and Molly wants to take the strong relationship she has with her own loving boyfriend to another level of commitment, but she can't bring to broach the subject of moving out with her closest friend. One night, while deciding to confront her ex, Frankie gets trashed and is mistaken by a mysterious stranger, played by Lakeith Stanfield, for the girl that looks just exactly like her, who happens to be a scientist who can help foster a major breakthrough, or something like that. I don't know, that bit's a little hard to follow even if you're sober. The point is that the stranger gives Frankie a suitcase full of liquid psychedelics that come from some deep-sea squid that make you really high and give you telekinesis when you pair it with marijuana. Naturally, the girls take the drugs and can hear each other's thoughts, as well as those of their beloved cats voiced by Seth Rogen and Kumail Nanjiani. They think that selling some of the drugs can help solve their money troubles, but the mysterious stranger would like to get back the suitcase and get it to some scientists who can help, and then a bunch of Danish dudes in matching suits are on their tail and they'll stop nothing to get the briefcase, or you know what this is. The Wrong Girls is a chill-out comedy from a female perspective, which is a welcome change of pace for a subgenre that almost always features dudes. Stewart and Shawkat have great chemistry together, bantering effortlessly like great friends should, and sharing in the trauma of learning their favorite lunch spot is about to close down, and generally being the kinds of people that, under different and less dangerous circumstances, people would want to get high with. The duo plays even better together when opposite the likes of Stanfield's increasingly annoyed problem solver, or Kate McKinnon is the scientist who's employed Stanfield to make sure the briefcase doesn't fall into the wrong hands. The best and most hilarious scene in the film is a lengthy sequence that pairs the four of them together to more or less dunk on how our heroes are so stoned they can barely function, while also explaining the plot of the movie to follow. Other moments where Meyer attempts to admirably add a teensy bit more depth to this drag a bit, but for the most part, everyone here knows the kind of movie they signed up for. The images are sufficiently trippy when they need to be, the friendship is on point, and other than making people laugh, The Wrong Girls is content to coast by on vibes. Which means there's not a ton to say about this movie outside the fact that it follows a very specific brief very well. It's a movie made to be watched under the influence of something, preferably with a friend, and yeah, that's it, man. I don't know how much more you would want from this. The one thing that I would say about The Wrong Girls is I would want more of it to have some quicker pacing. There are stretches of The Wrong Girls that feel too mellow and laid back for a comedy. While the jokes are funny, some of the set pieces fall a little flatter. That's why this one's getting a 6 out of 10 from me. It's almost too chill for its own good, but that's no matter. This is made for people who are probably going to be too buzzed to notice anyway.
I know you had a super special connection to yoga with your grandma, and this yoga studio that I'm dying to go to is doing a free intro class.
யோக பயிற்சி ஒரு அகவெளி பயணம்.
You should go. Well, the thing is, it's only free if you sign up in pairs.
You always need new blood.
It does seem like they're trying to diversify, bring some new seats to the table.
I would like to formally extend an invitation to our Vital Soul retreat.
அவங்களெல்லாம் பார்த்து பயப்பட வேண்டாம்டா. நீ கவனமா இருந்தா, ஷார்ப்பா இருந்தா.
How much is it?
All it costs you is your blood, sweat, and tears.
The horror satire Namaslay is a thoughtfully constructed, impassioned, and often deeply funny examination of the co-opting of yoga culture by white people. A self-described masala film from the first-time feature filmmaking duo of Rish and Kanish Arhat Sadir, Namaslay pulls from a lot of different influences and reference points, both Eastern and Western, to make a highly intelligent kind of horror comedy that could do for yoga what Get Out did for going to parties thrown by rich white people and what Suspiria did for dancing. Gayatri, or Tree to her friends, played by Kiro Shrikant, has recently moved to Los Angeles from New Jersey following the death of her beloved grandmother. Her only friend in the city is Judy, played by Angela Santalbano, a true LA devotee who loves all things trendy, isn't afraid to speak to the manager, and is secretly searching for some sense of belonging. Judy has recently signed up for a free trial at Vital Soul, a trendy new yoga studio, but the hitch is that the trial is only free if you bring a friend along. Tree is both skeptical and hesitant, as yoga was a special thing between her and her grandmother, but with no major friend group to call her own, she agrees rather easily. When she first arrives at the yoga studio, Tree sees things for more or less what they are. A typical white person yoga gathering that focuses more on stretching than spiritualism, and a bunch of consumerist ideas of what a yoga practice should be like. But Reina, the chief instructor, played by Christina Moore, immediately takes a shine to Gayatri, wanting to bring her into the fold as an instructor right on the spot, hoping that having an actual Tamil person on hand will lend the place some degree of authenticity. Still skeptical but excited to belong in a new city, Gayatri agrees, but her worst fears will be confirmed when she and a bunch of other trainees from similarly minority backgrounds are invited to an exclusive teaching retreat, and the dark secret at the heart of Vital Soul, as well as Reina's unhealthy obsession with Walt Whitman, will finally be revealed. Get Out sounds like an obvious point of comparison for Namaslay, but it's an appropriate one, as Rish and Kanish have made a film that works on similar levels. Namaslay is a film about feeling out of place and wanting to be accepted by the kinds of people that have held you back for years. It's something that a lot of people struggle with, and people of color more than most. On top of being Tamil, Gayatri still struggles with a slight stutter that she's had since childhood, and now has to go through the grieving process alone in an environment that will always remind her of her grandma, who's played nicely in flashbacks and visions by Usha Krishnan. Although Tree is initially excited for a chance to imbue her cultural pride and heritage on a whitewashed yoga practice, it's clear almost immediately that she's a diversity hire and is told to slow her roll and stick to the stretches so they can all get to brunch quicker. This setup is great because it provides the bedrock for Rish and Kanish to transition seamlessly into horror movie territory once all is laid out on the table and revealed. The film becomes a smart and pointed takedown of the ways people can adopt practices and beliefs from other cultures, but then twist and debase them to fit their own selfish needs, while still claiming that they're actually getting something out of it. Yoga, as Gayatri's grandmother likes to keep saying, should be a journey of self-discovery, not just something to do to get fit or somehow gain a false sense of enlightenment. Namaslay, in true horror fashion, espouses the dangers of messing with things that you don't fully understand and comprehend, and the following of following someone around who has only superficial connections to things that have been around for ages in other cultures. That's not to say that Rish and Kanish are trying to tell everyone in every culture to stay away from yoga, but rather to make sure that they're doing it for the right reasons and to foster a genuine sense of community. There's a great interaction at the corporate retreat where Gayatri gets a chance to talk to a Mexican woman who's also learning to be an instructor who dreams of opening her own practice for indigenous peoples back home. That's not treated as something bad because the beliefs held by both of these women are positive ones. Namaslay isn't trying to say that all yoga studios are bad, but that many are pointless and self-serving without a genuine direction or spiritual purpose. Shrikant is an exceptional choice of lead, capable of making Gayatri likable, strong, and flawed in equal measure, and she has a great rapport with Sant Albano as a friend whose jealousy about being passed over for advancement within the practice will lead her down a dark path. Rish and Kanish keep things going at a good pace without sacrificing the depth of their story, and the cinematography from Samdranahil Chatterjee is both slick enough for a film that's blending horror and comedy, but also perceptive enough to imbue the early pre-horror sections with a sense of eerie drama that isn't too obvious or cheesy. The style of the film hides the horror leanings very well in its early going. Namaslay is a film where budgetary constraints sometimes get the better of the production, particularly during the fiery climax, but there isn't anything in here that doesn't work or land without a precise amount of thought and care. Rish and Kanish announce themselves as talents to watch with Namaslay, and I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10. I had a blast here, but I also felt like I was watching something of substance with a lot of great ideas and a genuine cultural passion and identity. It's a film about yoga being done for all the wrong reasons, but Namaslay is a movie that's made for all the right ones.
I'm listening. There's truth, and there's lies, and everything. And I'm here to tell you what's the truth and lies. You ready? Oh my God. I didn't know you're back around here. I got a big haul coming up, and I could use some help.
Do you think I'd be able to do it?
I know you'd be able to do it. Follow me. What's your honey?
White clover.
That's a pretty rare crop.
God bless us all, everyone.
Y'all reckon we could talk to Amziah?
Writer-director Andrew Patterson's The Rivals of Amziah King is an almost impossible movie to talk about in totality, but I love it for that. A film that switches tracks and tones several times across its story, it's an unassuming film on the surface that offers some great twists and is never boring for a second. It can move between being a gentle family drama, a clever revenge thriller, a parable on modern greed, a celebration of bluegrass music, and even a heist movie without ever missing a beat. It's not a perfect film, but it's the imperfections and sheer chutzpah of The Rivals of Amziah King that makes it so riveting to watch. It should be a mess, and in some small respects there are some bits of tonal whiplash, but the film on the whole is so original in its construction that I loved what I was seeing. In his first big screen appearance in several years, Matthew McConaughey stars as the titular Amziah King, a beekeeper and honey producer in Oklahoma who spends most of his nights jamming on his mandolin with his music-loving buddies, co-workers, and neighbors. One night, the police come to Amziah asking for his assistance after they find a truckload of stolen honey, wanting to see if he can figure out who the real owner is of the pilfered barrels. Amziah makes it known that the honey business can be ruthless, with a lot of dishonesty and bad faith operators, but he seems like one of the good guys. Amid all the chaos that happens once the police arrive, Amziah reconnects with his former foster daughter, Kateri, played by newcomer Angelina Lookinglass. Kateri, who stayed with Amziah before his beloved wife passed away, is back in a nearby town working as a waitress. Happy to see her, Amziah asks Kateri if she'd like a better job learning the family business, and it's an offer that she happily takes him up on. And that's really all I can say about The Rivals of Amziah King without spoiling anything going forward. I will say that Amziah's words that the honey trade being full of hooligans is right, and that a big bad villain will rear his head in the form of Kurt Russell's uber-wealthy agricultural magnate Dob McCoy, but mostly because that's the least spoilery I can get. And even then, Russell doesn't first start poking his head around the king's business until almost an hour in. Patterson, who previously helmed the cult favorite sci-fi thriller The Vast of Night, takes his time off the top to set the characters, their world, their relationships, and everything about them before getting to a more traditionally paced story. The first parts of the Rivals of Amziah King plays like a comedic, chaotically paced Southern hangout movie led by McConaughey's charismatic, big-hearted master of ceremonies. The film swings with big personalities, exceptional music, and a lived-in sense of community and togetherness, and still manages some unpredictable left-field twists that will prepare the audience for a movie where literally anything seems possible going forward. Early on in Patterson's film, I could feel this was material that was ripe with possibility and unlike anything I had ever seen before. And I'm thrilled to say that the film continues in that trajectory for the entirety of a 2-hour-plus running time that ensures the audience always has something to remark upon or think about. The Rivals of Amziah King is a true original in every respect. Like the people in Amziah and Kateri's world, Patterson's film exists in a lane of its own. It's patently averse to easy categorization. I guess I'd call it either a drama or a thriller since those are the spaces that it tends to inhabit the most, but that also feels like a disservice and like I'm underselling it. Then again, once the picture becomes something completely different and unexpected in its second half, I have to deliberately undersell everything, or the truly bonkers nature of the film's reveals will lose all their impact. At some points, I was actively thinking that I can't believe Patterson is really doing this with his movie, but I mean that in a really positive way, like I was watching some mad genius at work whose confidence in their material was unwavering. In addition to the perfect casting of McConaughey as a good old boy lead, Patterson has also found an exceptional new talent in Indigenous actor Lookingglass, who turns out to be an equal to her big-name star in terms of how much they have to do here. Although the film never expressly addresses Kateri's Indigenous background, Patterson still imbues the film with a lot of cultural specificity and heritage. Both Amziah and Kateri are people who contain multitudes, the result of overlapping cultures, influences, life lessons, and struggles coming together as one. Lookingglass portrays Kateri not as the result of a wounded, broken childhood being dragged through the foster care system with her siblings, but as a strong-willed, intelligent woman who questions everything and takes nothing for granted. When the character comes into her own, so too does the film around her. McConaughey and Lookingglass are also supported by a great cast of character actors showing up to do their part in this genre and cultural stew. Scott Shepherd plays Amziah's marbled-mouthed and sometimes overly confident pal Chimmy, a true scene stealer that no one can understand at first, but somehow the more the viewer is around him, they begin to make out what he's saying over time. Owen Teague exudes some southern charm as an ex-con that Amziah employs who will prove critical in the fight against Russell's snake-in-the-grass millionaire. Tony Revolori has a great turn as Teague's hapless buddy, and Cole Sprouse has one of the most memorable side characters here as a master hacker who holds down a day job at a fast food fish joint. Everyone in the film has so many quirks and facets that there are no bad parts to be found. The style of the Rivals of Amziah King is close to that of a 1970s honky-tonk thriller. Freeze frames, close-ups, voyeuristic shots of observation, dusky trips through the woods to find some beehives, all of it looks gorgeous and from a bygone era where movies were freer to be as wide-reaching and ambitious as this. Patterson has assembled a story that moves smoothly, stops, does a burnout while making a few U-turns before heading down a new path with newfound surety. Is this all a bit overstuffed for its own good? Probably, but every scene in The Rivals of Amziah King is rich and full of life. It's a movie of indulgences and payoffs that zigs and zags like an electric pulse, always knowing where it's heading but never taking the most expected path to get there. I'm giving this an 8 out of 10 because while I know not everything works here, I am so happy that something like this exists. It's a breath of fresh air and another sign that hopefully we're about to enter a new era of original movies coming to theaters, and that things like this just aren't another blip on the radar. I don't expect this to be the next big thing, and I'm sure someone will ask just who this movie was made for, but that answer is simple. It's made for people who want to see good and original movies. Full stop.
I'm Cody and I'm an addict. I've been addicted to opiates since I was 17, and I'm part of the Adult Recovery Court program, and so I'm here.
So the basic rules are to abstain from drugs and alcohol, attend the court sessions and appointments, and to submit to drug and alcohol testing. Familiar with these? Bathroom's at the end of the hall. I'll be right behind you. We treat everyone on a case-by-case basis. There's no rubric, but back to jail is always an option.
Okay.
Sometimes if I have an extra moment, I like to put a spotlight on films that I've seen that aren't opening in a theater near me anytime soon, but that I have seen either at a festival or in a different work capacity or something like that, because they left a big impression on me. This week, I really don't have the time to spare with everything going on, but I'm still going to carve out some space for the tremendous addiction drama Union County, which I saw earlier in the year as part of the Sundance Film Festival, and it's starting to get a limited theatrical rollout in select U.S. cities starting this weekend. It's a film that I hope gets out to a wider audience, both in the US and Canada, based on the strength of writer-director Adam Marcus's vision, its commitment to being as realistic as possible, and the outstanding leading performance from Will Poulter as a drug addict in rural Ohio just starting on his journey towards recovery. I'm making time for this because I feel like this is a film that's important and excellent enough that it can't wait to talk about it. Union County starts on the first day of a court-mandated drug treatment program for Cody Parsons, played by Poulter. It's a diversion program designed to get addicts sober while keeping them out of the prison system. Cody, who's been living out of his car at the moment and has few housing prospects, has been addicted to opiates since the age of 17. Cody is told that he has to regularly drug test, keep a journal, appear before the court, and make sure that he maintains all of his appointments. Also in the program is Cody's former foster brother, Jack, played by Noah Centineo, who's had his ups and downs recently and has been working his way through the program for a while. The court hopes that Cody can find some support by having Jack nearby, and while Jack is able to get Cody a job down at the local lumber yard, Jack might not be the best influence on someone trying to maintain sobriety. Meeks, who based this feature on his own short film, made Union County in a manner similar to what Greg Quetter did with Sing Sing. It's probably no surprise that Quetter has recently cast Poulter for his next project. Although there were professional actors like Poulter and Centineo and others on hand, this film was made in collaboration with people on both sides of a similar program in Bellefontaine, Ohio. At the opening and at several other points in the film, real people in recovery share their stories and struggles openly within the film, often addressing the camera either directly with the audience taking the point of view of the judge or in tighter close-ups during support group meetings. The commitment to authenticity in Union County is brave and revelatory, and that is reflected in Meeks' scripting and direction. Union County isn't a film based around a specific story. It's about a journey faced by millions of people every day, one that keeps starting and stopping plenty of times before it's either completed, given up on, or something terrible happens. Recovery for almost every addict isn't a straight line, and Union County never treats it as such. There's a wealth of compassion here for people like Cody and Jack who find themselves in a position where they have to get clean, and the allure of numbing their daily pain seems too powerful at times. Union County makes it easy to see why people who feel tremendous amounts of physical pain, mental anguish, and guilt struggle so mightily with staying sober. They're fragile, and any slight setback can make even the strongest people run back towards anything that will make them feel whole again. The goal of Union County isn't to manufacture a story, but rather to depict life as it is for these people, moving from one moment to the next, not knowing what life and society has in store for them at every turn. And Meeks' observational skills and attention to detail are strong, with nothing ever feeling forced or out of place. The truths here are clear, evident, and unembellished. Union County can be heartbreaking to watch at times, but it's not a film that means to make people feel bad. I mean, it doesn't want them to feel good, but it wants to show the inherent drama to be found simply from remaining in the moment with these people. Cody's closeness to Jack is built upon a sense of guilt that he feels deep down, not to mention the fact that Jack used to go out with Cody's sister Kat, played wonderfully by Emily Mead, with whom he has a daughter. Cody's flirtation with a woman who herself is trying to stay on a sober path, played by Elise Kibber, will eventually make both of them question what's most important in their lives at this exact moment. And in one of his darkest hours, Cody knows precisely who to call, and that person is determined to stay on the phone with him as long as necessary to keep him from spiraling out of control. Meeks' film depicts a system that's built upon people in a community caring for each other. It never says that the Ohio program is a perfect one, but it's better than a lot of options in other areas currently ravaged by the opioid epidemic, and it never demonizes the addict for their choices. This is as balanced as films about the subject of addiction tend to get. There's no judgment, just the facts of the matter. For his part as the more jittery and unstable brother, Centineo transforms completely into his role. He looks and acts like he's a product of his environment, made worse by withdrawal and addiction. But the film rests heavily on the shoulders of Poulter, who's the primary focus of every scene in the film. Poulter has played on the other side of the addiction landscape before, portraying a sales rep in the limited series Dopesick, but this is an altogether new challenge for the actor, and he rises to the occasion perfectly. Poulter is usually cast in memorable supporting ensemble and character-based roles, but Union County is proof that he can carry something perfectly well on his own when called upon. As Cody, Poulter portrays a man who's trying to look as unbothered as possible when really he's dying on the inside. He never looks like he's going through active withdrawal all the time, but Cody looks like he's been stuck in a cycle of perpetual trauma for so long that it feels strange for him to celebrate any victories along the way. Poulter's highly detailed work points to the points that Meeks is trying to make about recovery by the end of the film. The several months that we spend with Cody in Union County is just one small part of his story. The journey before coming into that courtroom started long ago, and it will continue long after the credits roll and the audience goes home. While there is one development that comes at a rather convenient time, I'm going to give Union County a 9 out of 10. It's close to a perfect film, and one that deserves a much wider rollout across North America. If you are anywhere near a city where this is playing, you owe it to yourself to check this one out. And if you aren't, maybe start asking some of your local independent theaters to book it. Definitely seek it out if you have the means. And that's it for this week, finally. What does next week have in store for us? Tune back in to find out. Comment below to let me know what you think of any of the movies I just covered. Like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you've had a great week, and take care of yourselves. See you next time.